The telemetry of the launch vehicle is acquired for the time being by the Libreville tracking station on the western coast of Africa. Flight control is nominal. The trajectory is fully normal, fully as expected, as you can see on the plot with the yellow plot over the green one. That is the expected one.
22 minutes into the flight. Less than 3 minutes of powered flight remaining.
Smooth flight control.
And again, as we've mentioned before, everything nominal reported by the range operations manager. As we've mentioned before, this is a long ride uphill for the James Webb Space Telescope to put it at the proper position in the sky so that it can escape from the Earth, basically head beyond the moon towards its final orbit for its commissioning activities that will be the dominant feature of all of the operations from the Space Telescope Science Institute over the course of the next several weeks.
And the launch operations manager announced the acquisition by the Malindi station, as expected, for the end of the flight and the last part of the upper stage flight and the separation of the telescope.
James Webb is about 4 minutes away from separating from the upper stage. And again, at that point, it will be on its own. And again, those milestones that we discussed a bit earlier in the broadcast will begin to be followed carefully by the telescope controllers at the Mission Operations Center, the MOC as it's called, at the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore. One minute of powered flight remaining. The upper stage continues to function perfectly. It's been a smooth ride for the James Webb Space Telescope.
Trajectoire est nominale.
That upper stage was loaded pre-flight this morning with 15 tons of propellant for this long 16-minute burn, now about 30 seconds away from upper stage cutoff. And we're standing by for upper stage shutdown and the cutoff of the upper stage engine.
Extinction ESC. Les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
The extinction of the shut-off of the cut-off of the engine was confirmed exactly as expected, with the exactly expected altitude and speed and velocity. So now we have entered the coasting phase, the ballistic phase, that will last for a little more than 2 minutes.
And the telescope controllers in Baltimore confirming that all of the function parameters for the James Webb Space Telescope have been loaded on board the telescope. We are expecting Webb separation at the 27-minute, 7-second mark here into the flight. Just over a minute from now, springs will gently push Webb away from the upper stage of the Ariane 5. As it moves further and further away from the upper stage, there'll be what we refer to as a collision avoidance maneuver.
Yes, Rob, exactly. The springs already will give some distancing, of course, between the two objects, between the telescope and the upper stage. And then the upper stage will leave the trajectory of the telescope and makes a special maneuver to pass the telescope and heads towards a liberation orbit and leaves the telescope on its orbit without any risk of collision and without any risk of pollution towards the telescope.
And we're about 17 seconds away from Webb separation.
Séparation Webb Space Telescope. Go Webb!
We do have confirmation of observatory separation. The James Webb Space Telescope, amidst applause here in the Mission Control Center, now taking its first steps in pursuit of cosmological discovery. It was a perfect ride to orbit, and all of the separation sequence events are running in good fashion according to the telescope controllers. And there is the view from the upper stage camera on the Ariane 5 looking at the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves gently away from its launch vehicle.
Fantastic pictures of this telescope.
Go Webb, go Webb.
Yes, go Webb.
Ironically enough, as we marvel on this view from the upper stage camera, this will be humanity's last view of the James Webb Space Telescope as it moves to its workplace about 1 million miles away from Earth.
Yes, you're right, Rob. Impressive, fantastic pictures. Yeah.
Now we'll be hearing shortly from the Mission Operations Manager at the Space Telescope Science Institute, Carl Starr, who will be calling out the procedures that will lead to the deployment of Webb's solar array. And down in the fishbowl where there is jubilation, let's go to Raphael Chevrier of Arianespace. And before we do that, Raphael, a bit earlier than planned, but there is the solar array having been deployed. James Webb now has its array out as we stand by for confirmation that it is power positive.
Hey, Rob. J'entends pas ce qu'il me dit. Il m'a appelé ou pas? Il m'a appelé ou pas, Romain?
Non, il t'a pas appelé.
And there it is. There's your critical call. James Webb not only has legs, but it has power as it begins its journey and the commissioning activities to follow. And with that, let's go down to the floor in the fishbowl and Raphael Chevrier of Arianespace.
This is it. We have witnessed and the confirmation that Ariane 5 have safely delivered Webb into space. The upper staging right now in the fishbowl. So all I can say is good luck, Webb, and bring us incredible data from the deep universe.
At that point, our sequence will continue.
Well, Raphael, congratulations on a perfect ride to orbit from the Ariane 5 out of Kourou here today. A view here in the Space Telescope Science Institute. Their work just beginning on a new era of scientific observations. Luce Fabregat, it was a smooth ride to orbit. Everything went by the book, almost like a simulation, without any problems. And we thank you for all of your insight throughout the course of the day.
Thanks to you, Rob, and really a great achievement. I have many faces and names now coming up to my mind, and really